make a mistake, we're going to own it and we're going to fix it no matter what it costs.
All you pretty much have to do is don't screw it up. Like,
And let it roll off my shoulder. It doesn't even bother me because I know if I'm upsetting someone, then I know that we're doing it right. And I think that's the mindset that you should have.
change gears a little bit back to when you first got started, 2018 to like 2021. Some people may not know, but I had a landscaping company at the time. I had quit my job. I was in my first full year with that in 2020 during COVID, which was actually worked out because a lot of people weren't traveling and they weren't going on vacation because everything was shut down. So they were all stuck at their house and they're looking around their yard and they're like, hey, this yard looks terrible, or I need to get some landscaping done. And they had the extra funds because they weren't spending it on vacation. And so I'm sure you've seen a little bit of that in the roofing, but that kind of helped me that first year. And then it was in towards the end of my second year in 2021 of being full time in the landscaping business that you were kind of nudging me to start a roofing company. And initially, my thought behind it was I'm going to start this roofing company, still had the landscaping business, and then sell that one roof a month and put some money in my pocket. And so, what kind of led you to push me towards the roofing industry?
And I think at that time, like I saw, and I'll tell you the first realization that I had when I started my company. Um, I hadn't been on a real vacation in 10 years. I never had the money. I was working in the oil field 24/7, and with the family and all that stuff like that. Just the money just doesn't go far, and you don't have the time. And we didn't really take vacations. And I remember that second year into the roofing company, I went on a cruise with some of my friends, and I remember being on the cruise and we got paid from a few customers while we were gone, and I paid myself $5,000, and I'm sitting there, sipping on my drink and on a cruise, and I'm like, you know what? I've made it. I just made money. I just made money sitting
Uh,
here on a cruise, and and there's good times and bads, like in the roofing industry. And at that time, I was like, man, I would have never been able to do this if I was still at this oil field company. Um, that's the benefits of it. And so I saw, like, the benefit of, and I already knew, you were a smart businessman. You were already used to running, smaller numbers, smaller margins, dealing with, however many. I think you had 6 or 8 employees at the time, and you had to manage those people. And but in landscaping and lawn, you can lose money really fast if you don't know what you're doing. If you're not getting those guys there at this time, or if there's a job, 30 minutes from where they're supposed to be working, they're not going to hop from this job and go 30 minutes away and mow a yard. That wouldn't make any financial sense. So you had to really, like, schedule everything from A to Z to where they're hopping to houses next door. If you didn't do that, you wouldn't be able to make money. And the good thing about roofing and the bad thing about roofing is it's a hungry beast. You have to feed it. It takes a lot of money to run a roofing company, and that's what people don't realize. With the insurance alone, can be 50 to 100,000 a year. Uh, and so there's a lot of liabilities when it comes to roofing companies, and it's a hard business, and it will spit you up and swallow you if you do not know what you're doing and you're not a smart business person. But to go back to that, I was like, I saw how well you were doing with the landscaping and lawn, and I was like, he could probably start a roofing company in his market. I think at that time we had looked at a few in your market. I was like, hey, there's some really established guys here. They're kind of doing their own thing, and but there's kind of like no new age roofers, I would call it. And so I kind of nudged you, and I knew that once I got you going that direction, I remember we came up with the name Near Me Roofing because um, I was like, man, you know what? It'd be funny if you named a roofing company like Roofing Near Me Gutters, near me roofing, roofers near me. That way, whenever someone got to search on Google, it would pop up. And so that's kind of how the name came about. And then I remember us talking about, okay, well, what about the colors? And we started pulling the maps, Google Maps. Like it had the blue, the yellow, the green, and we wanted to integrate the maps into it. So it's like, hey, this makes perfect sense. We're going to say near me roofing. We're going to integrate the maps into it, like the colors of the maps, and this is going to make perfect sense. And that's kind of where near me roofing got started. And I can't remember. I think you had done a few of maybe your landscape clients were your first few jobs, and I think there was a couple of weekends I drove down there and kind of helped you get started and helped you with certain things. And then after that, I know you didn't really hear much from me. You were just kind of asking questions from afar, and you picked it up really fast. And I knew at that point I was like, okay, he's ready. He's figuring it out.
Yeah, it was funny because I do remember us coming up with a name and talking about the strategy. And to lend off what you're saying with the landscaping, the one thing about landscaping is it is a reoccurring revenue model. So, as long as you're going to lose some customers, but you're going to gain some customers. So as long as you're taking care of those customers, that business will be, at least you'll maintain the business, if not be able to increase year over year. The difference with roofing is you always have to be selling.
Mm-hmm.
I had to tell Jessica that when she came over here, started working for the roofing company, is at the end of every day with our other business, she had like these lists of things she could get done. By the end of the day, she was done. And I had to tell her because she was up here one night, 5:30, 6, 7 o'clock, trying to get everything done because she wanted to feel caught up. And I had a conversation with her. I was like, babe, you're never gonna get caught up. Like, this business is always like, you're always selling, there's always new customers, and it's a revolving door. New customers in, new customers out, new customers in, new customers out. Like, you're always selling. So it's like there's always something to do. Like, you never get your list done for the day and you're good. So
Yeah.
it was a totally different business model. Now, for a lot of people that don't know, like I did work at a body shop from 2010 to 2015, and I was an estimator, and I worked with insurance companies. I supplemented insurance companies all day long. So I would have an estimate for a car that had 200 line items on it, where with a roofing job, if you're just doing the roof, you might have 15 to 20 line items. And so I'm arguing 200 line items versus now I'm arguing 15 or 20. But the funny part was it's actually easier to get those line items in the auto industry than it is on a roof. And so it's a little bit different, but it's the same concept. I already had experience working with insurance companies, and then I had sold insurance back in 2008, 2009. So I had an understanding of home insurance, how it worked. Um, so those type of things, and then running a business kind of lended well towards me starting this company. And I feel like that's why I think that we've had success over a lot of our competition, is because I feel like a lot of those guys either, they took over a business from their dad, or they got into the business because they sold for somebody else and thought they could do it better. But I never came into this as a roofing salesperson. I ran it like a business from day one. And like you said, we were putting up Christmas lights, and those were some of my first roofing customers, were my Christmas light customers, because I was getting on the roof, put on their lights, noticed a little damage. Hey, it looks like you might have some hail damage. We could probably get this approved for you. And that's kind of how we started the business. And that's kind of how we got into the industry. And like you said, you kind of got us jump started. You were basically like a partner at first. So you were basically co-founder of Near Me Roofing and Contracting. And then later on, basically, I just got basically your percentage back from you, and you kind of just moved forward from there. And you really didn't have to help us with much of anything. Occasionally, there'd be a phone call or a question. Normally, it was something to do with insurance, or the adjuster saying this, or they're not paying for this, those type of things. But I feel like that kind of lended well towards us having success early on.
Yeah, and and us both being in the same business now, we still as something we see something we like. Hey, I'm texting or calling you like, hey, have you heard of this product? and it's kind of funny to watch it. Like, hey, we try each stuff out for each other to see how it works, and it kind of works in a way because we can piggyback off each other and say, hey, this is working for my company. This is not what it's working for my company. And just to give an example, like I hired a social media girl, and first thing I thought of was, you know what, I'm gonna call Chad and I'm gonna have him talk to his social media girl because they're doing good over there, and she's doing a great job, and maybe they can piggyback some ideas off of each other. And so that's the cool thing about both of us being in this business in different markets is like you're in a totally different market that requires totally different attention, where I'm in a market that is basically insurance market. A lot of cash deals come from real estate sales and stuff like that, but it's mainly insurance, and it's just a lot different market than you're in over there in Texarkana.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, even though we're in two different markets, that when you talk about like building a brand, and I think that's what a lot of companies don't think is important and they don't spend the time doing is building a brand. They don't understand what marketing, they don't understand the difference between marketing and branding.
Hmm.
And so branding is basically like awareness. That's just letting people know you exist. And so I always thought about, I know one thing Grant Cardone used to say, I used to be a big follower of Grant Cardone. I don't follow his stuff as much anymore, but he used to have a saying. He said, if they don't know you, they can't flow you. And
Yeah.
so uh, he would say, hey, you have to get out of that scarcity mindset and you have to become well known. He called it obscurity. He said, the problem is you got obscurity because nobody knows you. And if they don't know you, they can't flow you. So I think that's one thing that a lot of companies don't do is they're very transactional. And we was even talking about this with our sales team yesterday. Is like you can't be transactional with your marketing. Like you're going to go out and knock doors some days, and you're not going to get to talk to anybody. You're not going to get one roof inspection. But that doesn't mean that that day was uh, not beneficial to you, because then what if you get a call the next day because you left a flyer because they weren't home? And so with roofing, like people are big. You'll see on the roofing forums looking for leads. How much? Who's offering leads? How much are leads? Because they want to buy a lead and they want to get a result. Like they want to be able to spend the money and see an ROI or a ROAS, return on ad spend. And so the thing with marketing and branding is you can't measure everything, and a lot of times you don't get a return. But it all encompasses, like you might have a billboard, people aren't calling you and saying, hey, I'm calling you because I seen your billboard. Now we have gotten some of those calls. We have a roof we're working on right now over in Atlanta, Texas. It's going to be probably $100,000 roof. And the guy said the reason he called us was because of the billboard. Well, that just paid for my billboard. I have like a 2-year contract with my billboards. It well more than paid for that. Like my return on that is instantly taken up if we end up signing that contract. So it's not about the billboards and like people calling and saying, because if you just start measuring it that way, it's hard to make that money make sense because you don't see an actual return on ad spend. And so a lot of companies won't spend the money. And I think the thing that makes us successful is I will spend the money. I'll try something new. Like I've tried a lot of things that haven't worked, but I've tried a lot of things that have worked and we still do them today. And that's why we have like consistent lead flow. I'm not afraid to pay for a lead source or have a marketing budget. A lot of companies, if you were going to ask them today, say, hey, what's your marketing budget? They'll be like, we don't have one. Well, how do you not have a marketing budget? You got to have some kind of a budget that, hey, this is what I'm willing to spend on marketing, because now you're willing to try something new. Hey, I'm capped out here. I still got another $2,000 in my marketing budget for the month. Where else can I throw this to let's try out a new product. Let's try out something new. And that's how you get that branding and awareness and lead flow. And then off of that, you want to try to get referrals. So we built a referral campaign and we have a software around that. So how do you get referrals? And then once you get the referral and you take care of the customer, hey, how can you leave me a 5-star review? And not can you just leave me a 5-star review on Google? Would you go leave me one on Yelp and one on Facebook? Because now Google is looking at all your social medias and all your reviews together. And then if you go into to AI now, it might say, hey, I recommend this company over yours because they have more reviews on Yelp. And so now you're, as a roofing company, you're like, well, if I want to get recommended by I need to go get some reviews on Yelp. And oh, by the way, when you do a Yelp review, you have to post a photo or Yelp doesn't like it. So there's all these things, these little things that you're always making better to where you, when somebody goes to search for a roof online, they're finding your name. Now, one thing I will say, it's a lot easier for us in our market than you because we don't have as many competitors as you in a condensed area, and we're more rural. So like we'll get a lot of leads from uh, these towns on the outlying towns, an hour away, hour and a half away, because their local roofing companies don't rank good on Google or something. So I think when it comes to branding, that's where a lot of companies get it wrong.
Well, so to talk about my market a little bit more, the average roofing company lasts about 11 months, is what the Google search said, and I 100% believe that because there's so many roofers that they either never been in the industry or they were a salesman for an industry, and they're like, oh, I can do better than this company I was working for. I'm going to go start a business. Well, then one, they don't want to knock doors. Well, if you're a brand new company, you're just not going to make it if you're not knocking doors. There's just their idea is, well, I'm going to buy leads. I'm going to leave some videos and ask the people on Facebook. Maybe I'll go by some agent's office and realtor's office. So I call it a lazy mindset. So there's a lot of roofers that they're very lazy when they start this business. They don't actually want to put in the hard work. They're like, okay, what's the easiest way I can go make some money? And they're always looking for the easiest way to make money. They're not actually, they're shying away from door knocking. Well, door knocking is still the number one way to get a lead because it's face to face generation. You're actually meeting someone face to face. You're talking to them. You're getting to know them. They're getting to talk to you, getting to know you and your business and your demeanor and how you carry yourself. And it's still the best way to get a lead. It's not the only way. I mean, as you know, you have to do every avenue, door knocking, text messaging services, maybe telemarketing, referrals. Like we're big, like we get a lot of referrals because we take care of the customer, or the neighbor across the street saw, hey, that company really kept the yard clean because they had their catch-all system there and they were cleaning everything up and they made sure they cared enough about that neighbor's house to make sure that his shrubs didn't get damaged, and they took the extra time, and that's why we want to use that company over this company we saw across the street that took 3 days to do their roof. And we're really, our goal going into a job is we try to get the job done within a day and a half. Like we don't want to tie up this customer's yard and driveway for 2 or 3 days. It's not a good experience whenever a customer has to deal with you for 2 or 3 days. We like to get in, do a nice clean job, and get out almost like we wasn't there. And that's why we have our processes down to a T, where as soon as we do the roof, we detach the gutters off. We have the gutter guys there the next day because we want it to be like we were never there and it's done. And so it's all about, being prepared for the job, talking to the customer ahead of time, talking to your subcontractors ahead of time, having everything scheduled. Does it always run perfect? No, it doesn't. And if, there's a roofer telling you that the jobs are always perfect, they're lying to you. We always set that expectation with the homeowner, like, hey, it's not when we have problems or F, right? We're going to have problems. Like, I'll tell you this, your neighbor across the street, it went smooth as butter, and it doesn't always go that smooth. You might have saw us across the street did such a good job, and most of the time we do, but I'll tell you, we're human, and it's 105 degrees out here. Everybody makes mistakes, but the thing with us and our company is, if we do make a mistake, we're going to own it and we're going to fix it no matter what it costs us.
Yeah, I think that's something that you pointed out is important, is like having your processes and everything dialed in when it comes to construction and building the roof and setting those expectations with the homeowner. And this is something we talk with our sales team about all the time. Is the reality is this is construction, and if someone's not had their roof done, they really don't know what to expect. But One thing we tell our salespeople to tell them is, hey, it's going to look like an explosion went off at your house. All your, thousands of pounds of shingles are coming off your roof. If there's multiple layers of felt and it's paper felt, that stuff's going to be falling apart in 100 pieces, 1,000 pieces. We have to go around with a rake and rake that up. It's going to get, felt's going to get in your plants, and we're going to have to dig those out by hand. There's going to be nails that get behind bushes that we're going to have to get, and we're not going to get every nail. I mean, there's 20, 30,000 nails coming off the average roof. And so if all you pick up is a handful of nails, I'd say we've done pretty good. But I think it's about setting those expectations and just look like you care. I think when you take the extra time to protect people's stuff, I think they understand if something happens, hey, they were attempting. I think it's when you don't attempt to make sure everything goes smooth and then something goes wrong. It's just like, what are your intentions? Your intentions have to be that it's obvious I'm trying to protect your home. And if something happens, it wasn't because we weren't trying. And one thing that we just started doing, it's very new. We just started doing this in the last week. We started bringing our salesperson in and making them involved. So what they do is they go the night before, and we bought these cones and caution tape, and they basically walk 15 feet off the house around all the edges, and they tape it off, and then they tape off around the driveway and where the materials are, and so they get to have that extra connection with the homeowner. And then that sales rep's taking that extra step, because our whole motto now is clean job sites, clean job sites, clean organized job sites. And that isn't just the responsibility of production. The sales team plays a part of that too. Like, don't just hand the job off to production and say, hey, y'all, good luck with that. No, you need to be involved. Doesn't mean you need to be there all day. Doesn't mean you need to hang out on the job site. But hey, if you can take these cones and tape and go the day before, and while you're there, start taking photos of anything you notice that might be already broken or damaged. And if there's anything up against the house, start moving that stuff out, because you're making it easier on the crew the next day. And then you're walking around with the homeowner, and they see that you're protecting their home and you're taping it off and you're making sure everything's out of the way in preparing for the crew to show up in the morning. So now when the crew shows up, it makes their job easier. They might be setting the catch all up. They might be laying out tarps, but you already got everything taped off. You've already had a conversation with the homeowner, and that homeowner sees that extra step. So that's one thing that we've started to implement, is get the salesperson involved the night before, do like a pre-setup at the job site. They put a flag and a yard sign. So now if the neighbor's driving by that evening, because right now we have 2 or 3 hours after 5 o'clock when people are getting off, they drive by and they're like, what's happening at Miss Stevens' house? They got tape all taped off. Oh, there's a near me roofing flag. I guess they must be getting their roof done. So it's one of those things. It's like it helps with that 5-star, getting that 5-star experience, showing the homeowner you care. But it's also an opportunity to market to the neighbors that, hey, something's going down at this house tomorrow. Y'all, so it's kind of like a sneak peek. So I feel like it's everybody's responsibility in the sales process to make sure production goes good, not just production.
Yeah, it's all about teamwork and supporting that person, right? So we believe in, we have a job supervisor, but we want the salesman to show up and support that job supervisor so he doesn't feel alone, helping them set up the catch-all nets in the morning, making sure everything's covered. And I do that personally as the owner of the company on my job. I can actually tell you a job a couple of weeks ago. I beat the crew there. I beat my production guy there, and it was getting light. It was 5:55 a.m. And that was the first time I realized that Amazon delivers that early, because there was an Amazon guy delivering a package at 5:56 at this guy's house. And I was getting the nets and stuff out, and James got there at 7 o'clock, and we were getting everything covered. And I remember we had it all set up and nice, and we had our logo van out there. I was in the flatbed truck, and I remember a neighbor coming out, and she was, we had the road clear, and she was getting out of her driveway, and she looked at us, and she was like, well, this is too much, talking about all the stuff we did on that job. And I kind of smiled, and I said, thanks for the compliment. Because it's never too much. It's not too much to take care of a customer, to go the extra mile. And I really wanted to say, well, this is how a real roofing company operates. It is a big spectacle, right? Everything's covered. Our logos are everywhere. Our wrapped vehicles are everywhere. It's not just us sending the crew out there. And I've actually seen a bunch of houses in that neighborhood where we've driven by and saw squashed plants and crew there by themselves. I actually the next day we were there finishing up the job, and there was a chance of rain. There was like a 80-mile-an-hour wind and a heavy rain coming, and I just remember looking up and saw that this big steep 12 pitch roof was torn off and no felt up there, and I was like, you know what? I feel bad for those guys. That's why I was not going to do a roof today. But it's all about looking at the weather, preparing, just treating the home like it's yours. That's what our motto is like treat the customer's home like it's your own house, right? We want to leave it in better shape than when it started, not in worse shape.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of companies they get out of touch with their homeowner. And I think sometimes when you go out and you're actually setting that catch all up and you're meeting that homeowner, especially when you work in the office, and I talk about this all the time. Sometimes when I get out there and go sit in someone's living room, it kind of reminds me of why we do what we do. And, you get to see the person face to face. And because most of the time they're just a name in your computer or a name on a work order, or they're tied to a customer that owes you money. So you look at them transactionally instead of looking at them as a person. So sometimes it's better for you as the owner or a leader to get out there, get your hands dirty every now and then, and remind you of why you do what you do, and takes you back to your roots of why you started it. When that customer gives you that good review of your company, 5 stars, hey, the job was clean, it just reminds you of why you do what you do. Because the whole thing is anybody can put a roof on. It's like, can you put a roof on and get a 5 star experience from the salesperson to production to the back office team? Like our we kind of reset some new core values for ourselves, uh, and one of ours is one team, one outcome. And so we all work together as a team to accomplish the same goal, and that's create a 5 star experience for the homeowner. And this is something we could talk about all day, but we're running out of time. But I would say if you look at Icon Roofing now, you just got a new office. You sent me a video yesterday. Y'all just got it painted and everything. What's the next year or two look like for Icon Roofing? Like, what are you trying to accomplish? What are you changing? What what is the thing that you're doing that you don't want to do anymore? That it didn't work for you, and you've changed a few things, and now you're trying to move towards the future and make the company better and grow.
I would say hiring the wrong people, uh, hiring, potentially salesmen that were, big salesmen at other roofing companies. Right now, we don't have a huge team. I think we have 5 project managers, but like we feel really good about the 5 project managers we have because they all have great attitudes. They're all great with the customers. Their idea of how a customer's experience should be fits with Icon's vision of how that should be. Um, for us, we're going to start focusing on more commercial. So I'm working on right now getting my endorsement and starting a commercial division because looking at all the companies here in the Oklahoma City market that are doing really well, they have a commercial division because I think you have to do a little bit of both because if you don't, you're going to turn away a lot of work because, we get potential commercial jobs all the time, whether that's repairs or replacements and stuff. And I usually have to give them off to a buddy of mine when we try to do them somehow. But you don't want to be able to turn. You want to be able to do all roofing that way. You're not turning a customer away essentially. But I feel like for us to take the next step where we want to be, I think commercial roofing is where that's going to be. And we're always going to do residential and focus on residential, and that's going to be our bread and butter. But we want to start getting into commercial work and building those type of relationships. But I will tell you what we're doing now versus what we did. I would say that we're probably 40% door knocking sales right now, where we used to be we were 85, 90% of our sales was door knocking and the rest was referrals, call-ins, etc. Well, now we get enough leads, through our different lead avenues that, they're not having the door knock every day. There is times where, they do have to door knock and get leads. But right now, we're blessed enough to be able to get enough leads. And I'd say maybe 40, 50% is door knocking. The rest are leads from different avenues, but we're getting a lot of referrals, here in the last year or two as well.
Well, that's a great example. One thing I think about what you just said, it's kind of like a train. So when a train gets moving down the tracks, like it takes a while for a train to get going. And once the train starts going, it takes a lot for it to stop. Like it takes a couple miles for a train to stop once it's full speed. And I look at business that way. After years, especially in this industry, after about year three, if you've been able to sustain it, you've been actively growing, you build that what I call the momentum stage. And so even if you just screwed everything up, like you're still gonna probably stay the same size. Like you reach that momentum side because now you got people are starting to recognize your name. You got leads coming in. Now you have a referral base of customers you've done roofs for the last 3 years that are going to recommend you. And I was talking with Jessica about this probably a month or so ago. Is like I feel like we're at that our business and probably your business too is at that momentum stage. Is like, hey, now you're at, hey, I know I can do this. I'm not gonna go out of business. Hopefully, I'm pretty confident I can keep this going. Now it's like, how do we take it and make it better? And then how do we take it to the next level? Because I feel like a lot of companies get stuck in that $3 to $5 million range in this industry. So like how do you go to 7? How do you go to 10? How do you go to 15? How do you go to 20? Because at all those stages, different things are going to happen and you're going to have to change your processes and your SOPs, or you might change how you do something completely. And I feel like right now where you're at, you're in that momentum stage because now you're not required to door knock as much. And that's kind of where we are too. We get a lot of leads from door knocking, but a lot of our closed deals is probably around the same percentage as yours. Is maybe like 25-30% of ours is from door knocking because we've just got so good at brand and so good at all the other marketing avenues to where we do have leads coming in and referrals. So I think being at that's something I don't hear people talk about a lot is being at that stage of momentum in business to where all you pretty much have to do is don't screw it up. Like you got a good business going, you got a reputation going, just keep on compounding on that and make it better. And that's what's going to propel you through that next level in business. Because I was just reading a book called The Science of Scaling. I'm in like the last couple of chapters, but he talked about a business really is either growing or it's dying. There's no in between. Like if you're not actively growing, you're substantially dying. You just don't know it yet. And so you always have to be evolving and growing and stretching and trying new things and adding new people and hiring. And I think recruiting and hiring is the thing that's going to take you to the next level. Like you've seen in y'all's market, you have a lot of roofing companies. So you got guys leaving companies and coming to yours, and that was a model for a while. And then I think over the last year or two, you've realized, hey, we need to find people that actually have good values, integrity, honesty, hard work ethic, a positive attitude, all these things. And let's teach them the roofing process.
Yeah.
Let's teach them how to sell a roof. And that to me is more of a scalable model than hiring people who's already been in the industry. Now, if you're trying to get from point A to point B and you want to sell the company in 2 years, that's why a lot of these companies are trying to create those higher commission structures and poach these sales reps from, because they're trying to get to this point from A to B and sell. But if you're wanting to build a like sustainable business that you enjoy running with a good positive culture, you have to kind of start with the green people and teach them the roofing industry.
Yeah, and you have to have tunnel vision. You can't be worried. I feel like the roofing companies that are failing in markets, they're worried about what are the other roofing companies. We're too busy to be worried about what they're doing, right? We're focused on us. We have tunnel vision on our goal, and that's what we're focused on. We're not worried about, Joe Smo down the street and what they're doing, right? Now, in the Oklahoma City market's a very tight niche community, and we hear about other roofing companies and what they do. And if they don't pay their suppliers, we know about it. It's just if they don't pay their salesmen, we know about it. But we're not really worried about what they're doing because we're so focused on what we're doing and the brand we're building. And there's so many roofing companies that start up every day. If I was worried about what they're doing, I would never be able to focus on our goal, and that's to, sell a great product, give a good customer service through the whole process, help them through the insurance process, walk them through all that, and then, essentially, like you said, make sure they're happy, get a 5-star review, and then make sure we're here the warranty of the work. And that's another thing we explain to homeowners is like, hey, be careful who you do business with, because the average roofing company lasts 11 months, and it's not if you're going to have a problem, it's when. And you're not going to want to have to pay for another roofing company to come out and fix this issue. That's why you should go with someone that's more established. Like us, we've been around for 5 years. We 5 to 8 years. We've done 3,000 projects. Like, we've been here. We know the game. You can trust us. We're going to take care of you. If there's something that comes up, we've already dealt with it and we already have a solution for it. And you're just not. And that's the crazy thing. And I was talking about this a couple of days ago with some of my salesmen. Is like, some of these customers are so gullible, they'll do business with anybody. Like, they might get a good vibe from a salesperson and they're not going to do any research on that company. And that's why companies can come from Texas and sell roofs here, because the customers are just so gullible. Like, we love the customer that does research and they're like, oh, I'm not going to go with that guy. They're not local. They're not licensed through the Oklahoma registry. They don't have all that. So, of course, we're not going to do business with them. They're cautious homeowners, right? We love cautious homeowners because that means that they understand business, and they understand that they're going to have to pay correctly and pay a good price to get it done correctly.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Just like a customer, and I've learned this in business, just like a customer has the option to choose the roofing company, I believe a roofing company has an option to choose the customer, and not every customer is our customer. And I think the earlier you realize that, and that your sales team realize that, the more beneficial it will be for them, and the more success they will have. It's like being willing to walk away from a customer, because like those customers that talk you down on price or try to get you match a competitor's price, those are always the customers that complain. That's always ones that have an issue. And so that's one thing I think we can finish up with is like, just like a customer can choose us as a roofing company, you get to choose who you do business with. And I think there's a lot of desperation in the industry, and I feel like these companies think they have to close every deal. And the reality is, we only close 1 out of 4 customers that actually get fit in our CRM. Now, you have your booking rate and then your closing rate. Our closing rate hovers around 36, 38%. And it's been like that the last 3 years. But a real simple math is 1 out of 4 customers that go into our CRM turn into a job. And so when you start to know that, you start to have the data, you're a lot less desperate. Like, you run your business by numbers, not by, hey, I have to get this deal because if I don't, somebody else is going to get it. We don't run our business that way. We say, this is what we can offer to you. This is our value. This is why you want to do business with us. And hey, if you don't, then that's your choice. But it's also our choice not to do business with you or to allow you to talk us down on price. So I think if a consumer is watching this or another company is watching this, that's something that you can learn from. And with consumers, like, do your research. There's no licensing in Texas where I'm at. We are licensed in Louisiana, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. Like he was talking about with Oklahoma and the CIB, like, we're registered, licensed. We do work in Oklahoma as well. Like, do your research on these companies. There are a lot of companies that are in desperation mode right now. They're driving 3 hours from Dallas, to these little suburb, outlying cities and trying to get work because there's just not enough storm work. So do your research. And I always say this, and this is how we can end the call: is uh, it may be cheaper, but it may not be more cost effective. And what I mean by that is, you might have got a cheaper price, but when you have to replace that roof in 5 years, it's not more cost effective. It actually costs you more money because now the materials have increased. We just looked at a roof 2 days ago. Shingles are falling off, high nailed, 6-year-old roof. Gave her a quote for $25,000. Sales reps going back to finance the deal and sign a contract because we were honest with her. But should a person with a 6-year-old roof have to replace it? Probably not. But that's just the way it goes sometimes. And that's what happens when you're being cheap. It's not always cost effective. But thank you for taking the time out of your day. I know you got to get to work and got to get out there and grow our businesses and make them better. And thanks for taking the time to jump on the call with me.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I know we could stay on here all day, and we probably didn't touch on, 10% of what we could have touched on, just hearing each other out. But, I know that, Near Me Roofing and Contracting is going to do great things in Texarkana area, and they already are. And I will tell you, when you start doing good things, you start having, if nobody's hating on you, you're not doing it right. You're not being successful because as soon as everybody starts seeing your signs everywhere and seeing your trucks and your billboards and that you're doing work everywhere, they're going to become, jealous and a little envious of you. And so they may, say some things on social media, but that's just the nature of it. And, I just kind of smile at those and let it roll off my shoulder. It doesn't even bother me because I know if I'm upsetting someone, then I know that we're doing it right. And I think that's the mindset that you should have. And if any other roofing companies that are just starting out are watching this podcast and they got anything of it, I would just say, hey, have tunnel vision, and there's no secret to success. It's doing the right thing over and over and compounding that and having the processes in place. Because I think a lot of companies, they want to start and they want to look for that secret, or they want to go to RoofCon and all these events, and I'm just going to go pull this gold nugget that's going to make me a millionaire and build my business for me, and that's not how it works. So if you're watching this and you're a new roofer, you got to put in the legwork.
Yeah, there's no golden nugget to success and no shortcuts. It's all
Okay.
hard work, grinding, failure. You just have to fail faster than everybody else. So,
Yeah, well, y'all stay cool there in Texarkana, and I'll holler at you soon.
all right. Thank you for getting
All
on the
right.
call. Remember, don't shut off just yet. We
Okay.
gotta give it a second. She'll